Imagine a man willing to sacrifice his own blood to keep his power. A czar so consumed by paranoia that he chose to bury his beloved daughter alive, not out of senseless cruelty, but out of fear. Fear of losing everything. This is the grim story of Ivan IV, the Terrible, the emperor who preferred to condemn his own lineage rather than give up the throne, ruling under the shadow of death and betrayal. Prepare to discover just how far madness can go when power becomes a prison. The winter in Moscow was ruthless. The towers of the Kremlin sliced the sky like black blades against the gray clouds, and the snow piled on the rooftops seemed as heavy as the intrigues spreading through the palace halls. Ivan IV had ruled for decades. He had conquered and destroyed cities, spilled the blood of enemies and allies alike, and left a trail of fear wherever he went. But now he was old, and more dangerous than ever, paranoid. His empire was vast, but unstable. Rebellions flared in distant regions. The boyars, the powerful Russian nobility, secretly plotted against him, and the people whispered that the Tsar was losing his mind. But nothing terrified him more than a threat that came from within, from his own family. His daughter, Anastasia Ivanovna, was only 19, but already beloved by the people. Unlike her father, Anastasia had an easy smile, spoke to peasants without disdain or arrogance, and seemed born to unite a divided kingdom. And that was a danger. Ivan knew that if he died, the people would accept Anastasia as their sovereign without hesitation. But the problem was her fiancé, Prince Yuri of Novgorod, a charismatic young man, son of one of the most influential families in the country. Marrying Anastasia would grant him not only prestige, but a direct path to the throne. Ivan, who had seen alliances topple empires, was unwilling to hand his legacy to another man, especially someone he could not control. And so the thought that first whispered then haunted him every night arose. If Anastasia dies, the throne will remain mine. The following weeks were marked by heavy silence in the palace. Servants avoided the Tsar's gaze, courtiers whispered among themselves, and Yuri began suspecting something was wrong. But Anastasia, sheltered by the illusion that her father would never harm her, did not see the danger approaching. At the end of February, Ivan ordered a religious ceremony prepared in the Kremlin's winter garden. He claimed he wanted to bless Anastasia and Yuri's union with a special rite conducted under the snow, as a symbol of purity and strength. The princess, excited, donned a white cloak embroidered with gold and descended to the courtyard at dusk, accompanied by silent guards. When she arrived, she found only torches burning around a large hole in the ground, covered by wooden planks. The wind cut through the skin, but what chilled Anastasia's heart was her father's gaze, standing at the edge of the pit, holding the imperial staff. "My daughter," Ivan said in a grave voice, "you are the blood of my blood, but also the instrument through which my enemies intend to destroy me." Anastasia stepped back, confused. "Father, what are you saying?" Ivan approached slowly, his breath steaming in the cold night air. "If I allow you to marry, if I allow Yuri to touch you, he will take everything I have built. And I did not build this empire to give it to another man." She laughed nervously. "That's madness. You're my father. You can't." But her words were cut off by the sharp sound of boots crushing snow behind her. Soldiers emerged from the shadows, surrounding her. "Father, please." But Ivan said nothing. He merely gestured. Two guards tore the cloak from her shoulders and led her to the edge of the pit. Inside, the ground was covered in dry leaves and loose earth. There was no coffin, no cross, just a deep, cold, silent hole. Anastasia struggled, kicking and screaming, but the soldiers pushed her inside. She fell to her knees, looking up at her father. You will carry this forever, Ivan. Not as Tsar, but as the killer of your own daughter. He hesitated. For a moment, his eyes wavered. But then, as if possessed by the very title he bore, he turned his back and ordered, "Cover her." The shovels began to move. With every handful of earth, the torchlight seemed farther away. Anastasia's screams, once loud, became muffled, then nearly inaudible, until all that remained was the dry sound of earth hitting earth. That night, no one in the Kremlin slept. Servants whispered they saw a white figure wandering the garden. Others swore they heard dull thuds beneath the snow. In the following days, Ivan kept an impassive expression. But as weeks passed, something changed. The Tsar, once feared and respected, seemed consumed by something unseen. He slept little, talked to himself, and avoided the winter garden. Yuri, upon discovering his bride's disappearance, fled the palace and joined Ivan's enemies. In less than a year, rebellions and attacks surrounded Moscow. The people, who already distrusted Ivan, now saw him as a cursed tyrant. Hunger and war began to eat away at the empire. Then, on a cold December night, Ivan awoke to the sound of dragging footsteps in the hallway. He followed the sound to the garden, where fresh footprints led directly to the grave where Anastasia had been buried. On top of the frozen earth lay the white cloak she had worn that night. The Tsar fell to his knees, hands trembling. He looked around and swore he saw a female silhouette among the trees. She did not move or speak. She only stood there, looking at him with eyes he would recognize anywhere. Then she vanished into the darkness. A few months later, Ivan IV died under mysterious circumstances. Official records mention a sudden collapse during a chess game. But for those in the Kremlin, he simply stopped fighting something that had haunted him since that night. The garden where Anastasia was buried was destroyed years later. But to this day, night guards swear they hear footsteps in the snow and a soft voice calling for her father. This is the story of the Tsar who believed he could bury his fears, but ended up burying his very soul.